First Contact Protocol. Commander Maya Santos stood before the holographic display at the Meridian Deep Space Monitoring Station, her dark eyes fixed on the strange signal patterns dancing across the screen. After 15 years of scanning the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, the station had finally caught something, but not the kind of signal they'd hoped for. "Play it again, Dr. Patel," she ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The station's chief physicist nodded, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. The intercepted transmission flickered to life once more, this time accompanied by their eyes' best translation attempt. The message wasn't meant for human ears. It was a military communication between two alien civilizations, part of something calling itself the Collective Ascendancy. "They're discussing invasion protocols," Dr. Patel said, his usual enthusiasm replaced by concern. "The Ascendancy has already conquered 12 species in the past solar year. They're efficient." Maya studied the tactical data embedded in the transmission. The Ascendancy didn't believe in subtle infiltration or diplomatic manipulation. They simply arrived with overwhelming force, demanded submission, and took what they wanted. Any resistance was met with devastating orbital bombardment until the planet surrendered or was reduced to ash. "Have they detected us?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer would change everything. "No, Commander. We only intercepted this because of the quantum resonance array Dr. Patel designed." Lieutenant Sarah Chen answered from her station. "As far as we can tell, they still think this sector is uninhabited." Maya allowed herself a grim smile. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, even if most people didn't know it. After the first hints of alien signals were detected in 2047, Earth's governments had quietly begun coordinating their defense preparations. Now those paranoid contingencies didn't seem so paranoid after all. "Initiate First Contact Protocol Alpha," Maya commanded, "and get me a direct line to the Security Council." Within hours, the planet's hidden military infrastructure began to stir. Massive underground manufacturing facilities that had been disguised as mining operations started producing the weapons and defensive systems they'd been designed for. Orbital platforms that appeared to be communications satellites revealed their true nature as weapon platforms. And deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Quantum Computation Core began processing combat scenarios. The Security Council convened an emergency session, faces grim as Maya delivered her report. "The Ascendancy will reach our solar system within 6 months," she concluded. "They have no interest in diplomacy or peaceful coexistence. To them, we're simply another primitive species to be conquered or eliminated." "Then we should strike first," General Zhang argued, his augmented eyes glowing with tactical displays. "We have the advantage of surprise. They don't know we exist, let alone our true capabilities." "No," Maya countered, drawing on years of studying potential first contact scenarios. "We follow protocol. We warn them, clearly and formally. We tell them exactly what will happen if they attack Earth. If they choose to ignore that warning, what happens next is on them." After hours of debate, the Council agreed. Humanity would reveal itself not with violence, but with a warning, one that would either prevent a war or justify everything that followed. Dr. Patel worked through the night, calibrating the quantum resonance array to transmit on the Ascendancy's frequencies. The message they crafted was translated into every alien language they decoded from the intercepted communications. It was brief, clear, and left no room for misinterpretation. "To the Collective Ascendancy, we are humanity, of Earth. We have observed your actions and know your intentions. This is your only warning. Our system is not yours to take. Our species is not yours to subjugate. If you attempt invasion, you will face resistance unlike anything in your experience. We are willing to establish peaceful relations, but we will not submit. Choose wisely." As the message transmitted across the vast distances of space, Maya watched the quantum signals ripple outward. She knew the Ascendancy would likely dismiss the warning, just as they'd dismissed warnings from other species. But humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, developing technologies and strategies specifically designed to combat advanced alien civilizations. The Ascendancy thought they were the hunters. They were about to learn they were dealing with a species that had spent its entire history learning to fight against superior forces. And when, now we wait, Maya said, watching the message disappear into the depths of space, and we prepare. In the months that followed, Earth's surface remained seemingly unchanged. The same cities, the same routine satellite launches, the same civilian space traffic. But beneath that peaceful facade, humanity's true strength was awakening. The Ascendancy would either heed their warning, or they would learn why humans always gave their enemies one chance to walk away. The Silent Strike. In the crystalline chambers of the Ascendancy's command vessel, Supreme Overseer Vextal's bioluminescent form pulsed with amusement as they reviewed Earth's warning message. The human transmission had been picked up by their advanced scouts, and like everything else about this primitive species, it was delightfully predictable. They detected our communications, Sub-Commander Zarix noted, their own crystalline form shifting with concern. That suggests technological capabilities beyond their apparent development stage. It suggests desperation. Vextal dismissed, their light patterns forming what passed for a smile among their kind. They glimpsed our power and hoped to avoid conquest through empty threats. The same tired story we've seen a dozen times before. The Ascendancy's scout ships had been observing Earth for weeks now, cataloging its defenses. They saw the primitive chemical rockets, the crude satellites, the fledgling colonies on Mars and the Moon. Everything indicated a species barely reaching for the stars. Certainly nothing that could challenge the combined might of the collective Ascendancy. Launch the first wave, Vextal commanded. Standard subjugation protocol. Let's show these humans the futility of resistance. The Ascendancy's attack fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the solar system. 300 ships of living crystal and energy, each capable of reducing a continent to ash. They expected panic, perhaps a few desperate missile launches. Instead, they found silence. Earth's orbital traffic continued as normal. Civilian satellites maintained their usual broadcasts. Nobody fled, nobody surrendered, nobody even acknowledged the fleet's presence. Curious, Vextal mused. Begin the approach. Target their primary military installations first. The fleet advanced past Neptune, then Uranus, their sensors probing ahead for any sign of defensive measures. They found nothing but normal human activities, mining operations in the asteroid belt, research stations near Jupiter, routine transport ships moving between colonies. It wasn't until they reached Mars orbit that everything changed. The mining operations suddenly shed their camouflage, revealing massive weapon platforms. The research stations transformed into military installations bristling with technology the Ascendancy had never seen before. And the transport ships, they weren't ships at all. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Zarix shouted, their crystalline form flickering with alarm. They're everywhere. The human vessels, if they could be called that, were unlike anything in the Ascendancy's experience. They didn't try to match the aliens' superior technology. Instead, they exploited fundamental physical principles in ways the Ascendancy had never considered. The first wave of human attacks didn't target the alien ships' weapons or shields. Instead, they struck with quantum-entangled particles that disrupted the very crystalline structures the Ascendancy's vessels were built from. Ships began to shatter from within as their living crystal components lost cohesion. Impossible. Vextal flared with rage and disbelief. Their technology is primitive. We saw their capabilities. You saw what we wanted you to see. A human voice transmitted across all frequencies. Commander Maya Santo's tone was calm, almost apologetic. We've been preparing for this moment for centuries. Everything you observed was carefully crafted theater. The Ascendancy fleet tried to regroup, to adapt their tactics, but the humans had planned for every countermove. When the aliens strengthened their quantum shields, the humans switched to weapons that created localized time distortions. When they attempted to return fire, they found their targeting systems corrupted by virus-like quantum algorithms that had been lying dormant in their systems since they first scanned Earth's primitive satellites. "Fall back," Vextal ordered, watching in horror as a third of their fleet was neutralized in the first 10 minutes of combat. "Full retreat. We need to regroup and—" They never finished the command. A precisely calculated quantum pulse struck their flagship, transforming its crystalline structure into common silicon. Throughout the fleet, ships either shattered or fled, their crews finally understanding the true meaning of humanity's warning. In the aftermath, Maya stood in the Meridian Station's command center, watching the quantum signatures of the retreating alien vessels. The battle had been decisive, but she knew it was only the beginning. "They'll be back," she told her staff, her voice tired but determined. "And they'll be ready for everything we just showed them. Start implementing Phase 2. Dr. Patel looked up from his console, where he was analyzing the captured alien technology. "They still don't understand, do they? They think this was our full capability, our true strength." Maya smiled. "That's the beauty of it, Doctor. Every time they think they've figured us out, we'll show them something new. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our creativity, our ability to adapt and innovate." As cleanup crews began collecting the crystalline remains of the Ascendancy's ships for study, Earth's real defensive preparations continued. The weapons and tactics they'd just revealed were impressive, but they were only the first layer of humanity's true capabilities. The Ascendancy would return with countermeasures for everything they'd seen today. They would find humanity waiting with something entirely different: adaptation and innovation. The Ascendancy's return to Earth 3 months later was preceded by a message that would have chilled the hearts of any other species. Their transmission showed recordings of worlds they'd conquered, civilizations that had dared to resist and paid the ultimate price. The message was clear: submit or face extinction. Commander Maya Santos watched the transmission from humanity's new command center beneath the Mariana Trench, her expression unchanging. Beside her, Dr. Patel worked furiously at his quantum interface, analyzing the technological advances evident in the transmission. "They've completely redesigned their fleet," he reported. "New crystalline structures resistant to quantum disruption, temporal shielding, adaptive AI systems to counter our virus algorithms. They learned from every trick we used against them." "Good," Maya replied, surprising the others in the command center. "That means they're predictable. They're trying to solve yesterday's problems." The Ascendancy's new armada emerged from quantum space with over 1,000 ships, their crystalline forms now darker, more ominous. They'd spent 3 months adapting their technology to counter every weapon and tactic humanity had revealed in the first battle. Supreme Overseer Vextal, their crystalline form now reinforced with exotic matter, felt confident in their coming victory. That confidence lasted exactly 6 minutes into the battle. Instead of the quantum weapons and time distortion fields they'd prepared for, the Ascendancy fleet found themselves facing something entirely different. Humanity had spent the intervening months developing new technologies that worked on completely different principles. Multiple dimensional inversions detected. Zarix called out, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. They're folding space. Human ships seemed to appear from nowhere, striking from dimensional pockets that the Ascendancy's sensors couldn't detect. When the aliens adapted their shields to block these attacks, humanity switched tactics again. This time, they deployed swarms of nanoscale robots that could transmute matter at the atomic level, turning the living crystal of Ascendancy ships into inert materials. Impossible. Vextal raged as reports of losses poured in. They cannot have developed these technologies in mere months. You still don't understand. Maya's voice came through their communications, calm as ever. We didn't develop these in the past 3 months. We developed them years ago, along with dozens of other defensive systems you haven't seen yet. We just chose not to use them in our first encounter. The truth began to dawn on the Ascendancy leadership. Humanity hadn't just prepared for invasion. They'd spent generations developing multiple layers of technology, each designed to counter different types of advanced civilizations. Every time the Ascendancy adapted to one set of weapons, humans simply unveiled another, forcing them to start their adaptation process all over again. But it wasn't just technology that set humanity apart. Their tactical approaches seemed to evolve in real time, each engagement different from the last. When the Ascendancy deployed ships specifically designed to counter dimensional attacks, they found humans using gravitational weapons instead. When they hardened their ships against nanoscale attacks, humans switched to weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. They're not fighting like a military, Zarix realized, watching another squadron fall to a previously unseen human tactic. They're fighting like scientists running experiments. Each engagement teaches them something new about our capabilities, which they then use to refine their next approach. In the Mariana Command Center, Maya and her team coordinated the defense with practiced efficiency. The quantum computation core processed battle data in real time, predicting enemy adaptations and suggesting counter-strategies before the Ascendancy could even implement their changes. They're attempting to establish a temporal containment field around Earth, Dr. Puddle reported, his fingers dancing across his interface, trying to lock us in a moment of time. Maya nodded. Deploy the chronometric anchors. And Dr. Puddle, it's time for Project Prometheus. The scientist's eyes widened. Are you sure? That's one of our last hidden advantages. They need to understand that we're not just defending ourselves, Maya replied. We're teaching them a lesson about humanity that the entire galaxy needs to learn. Across the solar system, hidden installations activated. The chronometric anchors, massive devices buried in dimensional pockets around Earth, stabilized local spacetime, neutralizing the Ascendancy's temporal attack. But that was just the prelude. Project Prometheus revealed itself as a network of artificial quantum singularities, each one capable of redirecting the fundamental forces of reality. The human fleet didn't just fight the Ascendancy ships, they began rewriting the laws of physics in localized areas, creating zones where the aliens' technology simply couldn't function. This is your final warning, Maya transmitted to the increasingly desperate alien fleet. You can retreat now, or you can stay and witness capabilities that we genuinely hoped we'd never have to use. The choice, as always, is yours. Vextal, watching another quarter of their fleet succumb to weapons they couldn't even comprehend, finally began to understand. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they'd turned preparation itself into an art form. Every victory the Ascendancy might achieve would only reveal new layers of human innovation, new technologies and tactics they'd held in reserve. The question was no longer whether they could defeat Earth. The question was whether the Ascendancy itself could survive humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. The coalition fractures. In the aftermath of the second failed invasion, the collective Ascendancy faced something entirely new: internal dissent. The Meridian Conclave, one of their oldest member species, had called an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly. The recordings of humanity's defense had spread throughout civilized space, and for the first time in millennia, questions were being asked about the Ascendancy's supremacy. Supreme Overseer Vextal's crystalline form pulsed with barely contained rage as they addressed the Assembly. These humans are a threat to galactic stability. Their technological advancement is unchecked, their military capabilities beyond reasonable limits. They must be contained. Perhaps, responded Ambassador Corell of the Meridian Conclave, their energy form rippling thoughtfully. We should be asking why they developed such capabilities in the first place. They didn't build these defenses for conquest. They built them purely to protect their independence. On Earth, Commander Maya Santos and her team monitored the Assembly's proceedings through their quantum observation network. Dr. Patel had managed to crack the Ascendancy's secure channels, giving them unprecedented insight into the political turmoil they'd created. The Ascendancy's coalition is splitting into 3 factions. Lieutenant Chen reported, her augmented eyes processing the incoming data. One wants to continue the attacks with even greater force. Another advocates for diplomatic engagement. And the third wants to learn from us. Maya finished, a slight smile crossing her face. They finally started asking the right questions. The ascendancy had ruled through technological superiority, believing that their mastery of crystal energy technology represented the pinnacle of civilization. Humanity's defense had shattered not just their fleet, but their entire worldview. How could a primitive species have developed so many different technological approaches? Why had they chosen to warn their enemies instead of striking first? And most importantly, what else were they capable of? In the assembly, the Neurith Collective, masters of biotechnology, spoke next. We have analyzed the human combat recordings. Their innovation rate is unprecedented. They don't just adapt. They seem to thrive on the challenge. Each engagement shows new technologies, new strategies, new ways of thinking. That's exactly why they're dangerous. Vextal interrupted, their crystal form flashing with intense light. They're unpredictable, uncontrollable. They are precisely what this galaxy needs, came a new voice. Ambassador Shrell of the Quantum Nexus, a civilization that had largely stayed neutral in galactic politics, stepped forward. Their quantum matrix form shimmered as they addressed the assembly. For too long, we have stagnated. The ascendancy's doctrine of controlled evolution has prevented true innovation. These humans, they remind us of what we once were. In the Mariana Command Center, Maya received an urgent message. The quantum sensors had detected a small fleet approaching Earth, but this one was different. Instead of the ascendancy's crystalline warships, these vessels bore the markings of the Meridian Conclave and the Quantum Nexus. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Dr. Petal reported. It's a request for diplomatic contact. Maya studied the incoming ships carefully, scanned them for any signs of weapons or hostile intent, and prepare Project Orpheus, just in case. This is a trick. But the scans showed something unexpected. The alien vessels had deliberately reconfigured themselves to be completely transparent to human sensors. They were making themselves vulnerable, a sign of trust. We come seeking understanding. The alien transmission began. Your species has demonstrated not just technological prowess, but wisdom in its application. You had the capability to strike first, yet you chose to warn. You had the power to destroy your enemies, yet you repeatedly offered them the chance to retreat. The message continued. We believe the galaxy is about to change. The ascendancy's grip on power is weakening, and new alliances must be formed. We do not offer submission or demand obedience. We propose partnership. In the assembly, the debate had turned into open conflict. Several member species had already announced their withdrawal from the ascendancy's military coalition. Others were calling for a complete reorganization of galactic governance. You see, Vextal rage. Already they cause chaos. Already they disrupt the order we have maintained for millennia. The order you maintain through force and fear, Ambassador Krell countered. Perhaps it's time for something new. Something human. Maya considered the diplomatic overtures carefully. Earth's defenses had proven themselves, but endless conflict wasn't the goal. Humanity had developed its capabilities to ensure its independence, not to dominate others. Send this response, she instructed her communications team. Earth accepts diplomatic contact under the following conditions. All meetings will occur in neutral space. All participants will share basic technological principles as a show of good faith. And most importantly, the independence of all species, including those currently under ascendancy control, will be the foundation of any new galactic order. As the message transmitted across space, Dr. Petal looked up from his quantum interface. Commander, do you think they'll accept our terms? Maya watched the diplomatic vessels holding position at the edge of the solar system. They don't have much choice. We've shown them that technological superiority alone doesn't guarantee victory. Now we'll show them something even more important: how to build a civilization based on mutual respect rather than dominance. The galaxy was indeed changing. The question was no longer whether humanity would survive, but how their philosophy of independence, innovation, and cooperative strength would reshape the cosmos. A new galactic order. The orbital station where Earth's first galactic diplomatic summit was being held represented everything humanity stood for. It appeared deceptively simple from the outside. A rotating wheel of titanium and carbon composites, but like humanity itself, its true complexity lay beneath the surface. Every component incorporated technologies from different species, demonstrating how diversity could breed strength. Commander Maya Santos stood at the observation deck, watching representatives from 27 civilizations arrive in vessels of crystal, energy, and forms of matter humans were only beginning to understand. 6 months had passed since the Ascendancy's last attack, and the galaxy had transformed more rapidly than anyone had predicted. The Ascendancy fleet is moving again, Lieutenant Chen reported, her augmented eyes tracking multiple data streams. They're gathering at the Centauri threshold. Let them watch, Maya replied calmly. They need to see this. Inside the station's grand chamber, Dr. Patel presented humanity's proposal for a new form of galactic cooperation. The quantum hologram behind him displayed a model of technological exchange that would have been unthinkable under the Ascendancy's rule. We call it the Adaptive Development Protocol, he explained to the assembled delegates. Instead of forcing all species to follow a single technological path, we propose sharing fundamental principles while encouraging diverse approaches to their application. Ambassador Carell of the Meridian Conclave pulsed with approval. Like your own development of multiple technological bases, you didn't just master one field. You explored them all, finding unique combinations and applications. Precisely, Maya stepped forward. But technology is only part of the equation. The real strength comes from diversity of thought, of approach, of perspective. Every species here has something unique to contribute. The gathering was interrupted by an urgent signal. Supreme Overseer Vextal's image appeared above the chamber, their crystalline form darker and more ominous than ever. You think you can reshape the galaxy so easily? Their voice boomed. We have ruled for millennia. We have guided the evolution of countless species, and now, their form shifted, revealing the massive fleet behind them. Now we will show you the true meaning of power. The Ascendancy's final assault force was larger than anything they'd ever assembled. 5,000 ships incorporating technology stolen or copied from every advanced species in known space. They had spent months preparing, adapting, learning. But so had humanity. Interesting timing, Maya remarked calmly. Dr. Patel, would you like to demonstrate the other reason we invited everyone here today? The scientist nodded and activated a sequence on his quantum interface. Around Earth, thousands of satellites that had appeared to be simple communication relays revealed their true nature. But instead of weapons, they created something entirely new. A quantum resonance field that extended throughout the solar system. We call it the Harmony Network, Maya explained to the astonished delegates. It allows different technologies to work together, enhancing each other rather than competing. Would any of you care to contribute? One by one, the diplomatic vessels added their power to the network. Crystalline energy merged with quantum fields, biological systems synchronized with artificial intelligence, and technologies that should have been incompatible found new ways to cooperate. When the Ascendancy fleet arrived, they found not just Earth's defenses waiting for them, but a unified response from a dozen different civilizations. Their attacks, designed to counter specific technologies, proved useless against defenses that adapted and combined in real time. You still don't understand, Maya transmitted to Vextal as their fleet faltered. Strength doesn't come from domination. It comes from cooperation, from the exchange of ideas, from the combination of different perspectives and approaches. The battle was brief but decisive. The Ascendancy's fleet, for all its power, couldn't match the synchronized defenses of multiple civilizations working in harmony. Ships began to retreat, then flee in earnest as their supposedly superior technology proved inadequate against the combined innovation of multiple species. Enough. Ambassador Shrell of the Quantum Nexus declared, "The age of the ascendancy is over. It's time for something new." In the aftermath, as the diplomatic summit resumed, Maya found herself looking out at the stars again. The quantum resonance field still hummed around the solar system, now permanently maintained by the combined efforts of Earth's new allies. "They're calling it the human approach," Dr. Paddle said, joining her at the window. "Using diversity as a strength, combining different methods instead of forcing everyone to follow the same path. Other species are already adopting similar principles." Maya smiled. "And that's exactly why we warned them first. Why we showed restraint when we could have struck first. We didn't want to replace one form of dominance with another. We wanted to show them a better way." The ascendancy's remnants would eventually return, not as conquerors, but as applicants to join the new galactic coalition. They had finally learned what humanity had known all along, that true strength comes not from enforcing uniformity, but from embracing diversity and adaptation. Earth had taken its place among the stars not by conquering or submitting, but by demonstrating a fundamental truth. The universe is too vast and complex for any single approach to be sufficient. Only by combining different perspectives, technologies, and ways of thinking could civilization truly advance. The warning Earth had issued at the beginning of this journey had been more than a threat. It had been an invitation to learn this lesson. Some had learned it the hard way, others through observation. But in the end, the galaxy was better for it. "Ready for the next challenge?" Dr. Patil asked, noting new quantum signatures at the edge of known space. "Always," Maya replied. "That's what humans do best. We adapt, we innovate, and we never stop learning." The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the promise of a future where strength came not from domination, but from cooperation. Humanity had changed the galaxy not through conquest, but by offering a new way forward. And the universe would never be the same.